Hey, you guys, welcome back to our channels. Thank y'all so much for tapping back in. Listen, you guys, yes, you read that thumbnail right. QNT to 1738 from just the AI software sector alone. And yes, we got some secret sauce coming from the QNT that we're going to pick at and expose inside this one. So you want to stick around, okay? What you got to tell the people, Maximus?
Well, you guys know the drill. It does help the channel, so we always try to do this. And the only reason why we mention this is because we actually do sell some of this, and it's lucrative for us and so on. So yeah, we do provide a lot of free content, but nonetheless, it does give you some savings. It is the decent wallet. Get yourself a significant discount. There's also BTCC above Channing's head. Get yourself $10 minimum of free USDT, and you can swap that. And then when you swap it to your decent wallet, get it off that exchange if you choose to do so. Or if you want to use leverage, use a demo account, again, up to 500x leverage. We were kicked off of MEXC. We were kicked off of KuCoin, right? And a lot of you guys did do the leverage on those. So cool thing about this, you can do your XRPs, you could do your Jasmines for crying out loud. There's XLM on there and so on. So it's been around since 2011, one of the world's oldest exchanges, and they never had a major incident. So check that out. So we're going to play this brief little ad, and we'll come right back.
If managing your crypto feels like solving a puzzle, it's time to switch to Decent Wallet. It's just a few taps. You can manage, track, and secure your crypto with unmatched ease. And here's the best part. Grab your Decent Wallet at a discounted price by using the referral link below. Don't miss out on making your crypto experience smoother and more secure.
All right, welcome back. Let's jump into what we have. So this was going to be at the end of the last video. We encourage you to watch our last video about Quant, Hedera, and even Constellation Day, when we were talking about the whole thing of AI agents and workflows, okay? So that topic of AI agents, let that get stuck in your head for a brief moment. We're going to pull up some info about this. And what do we have? Well, here it is from Google, believe it or not. It says specifically, how big will the automated workflow AI market be by 2030? It says global artificial intelligence, which is AI, software market size is forecasted to reach 98 billion in 2024 and grow at a compound annual growth rate, which is CAGR, of 30% between 2023 and 2030. And by 2030, the AI market is estimated to be a value at roughly 391 billion. Okay, and that comes from ABI research technically. Now, as I take you to this next part, if you're busting out your calculator, let's be conservative about it. Seriously. I know a lot of guys feel as though like, oh, he's just going to mention 100% of that market. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. But I do think it's safe to say that quant specifically could very well do 10% of that. Okay. And so if that's the case, that would pull this to, as we know, 369, and that number in front of it is 39 billion roughly. Okay. Now also remember that. So 39 billion, really, Max? Well, there's a site. It's called With the Market Cap Of. A lot of you guys are familiar with it. Let's take you over to some examples. But before we do so, try to get that 39 billion stuck in your head. Well, currently speaking, again, we're not in 2030 yet. Do we have anything to compare this at all? Okay. Well, as you guys know, QNT's hovering around what, $88, $89. We've gone up. I took advantage of all those $65 sales and $55 sales, but hey, to each his own. I get it. Do we have any examples? The examples that we have is Dogecoin. So there's nothing that is 39 billion currently in market cap. Okay, and I get it. You can't just say different tokenomics, different supply. I understand it. It's just an example. So again, don't shoot the messenger. But Dogecoin is at roughly 25 billion. Okay. Next leap of above that is USDC. So, okay. What about Dogecoin? That would be kind of somewhat close, off about 6 billion. Well, with QNT, with the market cap of Doge, puts QNT at $1,738. That's roughly close to a 20x. Now, me and Channing, I mean, I think I speak on behalf of Channing. I'm not really into QNT for that amount. I mean, 20x is nice, right, bro? I mean, they are. But I'm also not complaining that 10% off of that sector alone for AI, that's not too shabby. And that's just one little sector and one little amount of 10% from that sector. Before we kick it into QNT Secrets Exposed, just kind of want to get your thoughts because we did cover quite a bit about quant, Hedera, AI agents, and this new quant flow and workflow integrations, Constellation DAG part of the mix. Some of your thoughts based on those findings, Channing.
It's just a lot going on, but just knowing that 1738 and understanding, like you said, that is literally just one use case. Now think of all of the use cases quant will have that tap into quant flow and quant scripts and will pay scripts and overledger and any other product that the team rolls out. Even things like what we found with Amazon, with things like quant authorize, and know that all the stuff that goes through authorize goes through overledger. And we know that all of these things utilize QNT. All of these different integrations from your Make and your Zapier and your Pipe Jeans and your Whippy or whatever that new integration is called. All of these things will be pieces of different sectors, and all of them will combine into a price that clearly none of us are ready to see. I say all the time that quant's next major move will completely price retail out. And I truly feel that in my heart because we know that we hover around 200,000 or so on exchanges. So it's not very many that's left to just be snapped up instantly. You know, these days of quant being under $100, people we're going to look back and we're going to say either thank you, I took advantage of it, or oh man, I missed the boat, and they're going to be singing their shoulda, woulda, couldas, because that move from where we sit now to 1,000 is going to happen extremely fast, and from there, the sky's the limit. Because utility in motion is just that. It is the utilization of these processes flowing through different distributed ledger networks globally at massive scale, because you have your regular retail person utilizing the services, whether they know they're utilizing Overledger, whether we have that Oracle integration with 30,000 clients and like what was like 1 point something million customers they interact with a day. Think about when all those processes start flowing through Overledger. Think about the market that is going to be captured and what the potential price is going to be based off of all of the sectors that QNT will touch, based off of the utility that it is bringing to the market. So that 1738 is amazing, and I'm here for it, but I'm holding for much higher prices because I see the vision and the future of what is truly being built out as far as these Web3 processes and how Quant Network is facilitating it. Like I don't like we're at the symphony watching the ballet, and there's the orchestra and he's just telling the violins, now you go, and there you go saxophones, and there you go cellos, and so forth and so on. QNT, to me, it is the opportunity of a lifetime. Brother, I kick it back over to you.
It is the opportunity of the lifetime. I mean, you know, what if one of those is a cello that's like a Stradivarius or something like that, you know? And it's just like Quant even has QRC 721, NFTs. You know, yeah, smart Absolutely. Contract NFT. So it's Absolutely. Like your analogy about, you know, the composer, and then you having the orchestration of that. Well, there's going to be ones that are a little bit more significant. Well, is this of the cellos? Is there a
lead? You know,
well, I'm just saying like
has a lead.
Like a Stradivarius is like a very rare cello, you know, and it's just like they have violin. Yeah. Well, yeah, that too. But anyway,
yeah.
We're having a little fun with this. Let's get a little bit more into what we have. So an announcement. Okay, you guys know I got banned from the Quant network from picking around a little bit too much, right? So I gotta kind of activate my old college days of, if you guys ever went to college, like there's the class is called critical thinking. So I'm like trying to put my critical thinking hat back on. So not this hat, but my critical thinking hat one. I'm thinking, well, they can't block the internet. That'd be crazy if they could. That'd be crazy control. Well, shout out to Quant Papa. I took what he had, top of what I have, and found a little something here. Let's get into it. So this segment is Quant Secrets Exposed. What do we have? Well, this is interesting because when you get into it, XML sitemap. Yeah, forget the whole WayBack time machine. Let's take a look into this. Generated by Yoast SEO, which means search engine optimization. This is a XML sitemap meant for consumption by search engines. You can find more information about it through, of course, sitemaps. Now, I want you to pay attention to where it says what was last modified. In the timestamps, you see it was this year. In the timestamps, you see as of recent of, let's face it, just a few days ago. But Quant Network, where it says sitemap, page sitemap, people. Pay attention to the part about the people. All right. So we get further into this. I know exposing some things here. It is what it is. All right. So hopefully you guys appreciate this. On those URLs that they want to keep hidden, you see, for example, Helen Commit, Neil Smith. We know about Neil Smith. We've done a few outlines about him. Dr. Luke Riley, Quant Editorial Board. You see all these people, Gilbert Verdi, Martin Hargreaves, so on and so forth, Guy Dietrich, David Yates, right? A whole bunch of people here. Bottom one mentions this guy named Gonçalo Lima. Pay attention to him. Now, that was last dated and modified on April 24th as referenced on the bottom right. All right. Here's why, again, you want to point this out. And, of course, just in case you missed it, Quant Papa was pointing out, hey, look, there it is. All right. As I take you over to this, I want to point out some other key things. And in the key things, you're going to see some eye-opening things, to say the least. And basically, I switch it over to this tab. Well, who in the world is this guy, and why does it matter to you? Well, I don't need the WayBack time machine. I just need other plugins, other ways of acquiring what we need to bring it to you guys. Head of partnerships. Gonçalo Lima, this guy that they want to hide from the world, is the head of partnerships at Quant. Previously, he was the capital markets ecosystem at R3. So the guy from Quant was the former guy from R3. Let's go. And sat as co-chair of Fixed Trading Community Digital Assets Technical Committee, had a role on the Interoperability Initiative. Wow. And for over a decade, he was Macro Chief Operating Officer at Standard Chartered Bank. Wow. We talked about that hypothetical situation. And before that, he worked at product control at BNP Paribas. He represented SCB at Global FX Division and was the chair of steering committee in 2020 and 2021 at SCB. Gonçalo has helped to deliver several change projects and digital initiatives in financial markets. Gonçalo holds a finance and banking MSc with distinction from the University of Portsmouth and economics degree from Nova University, Lisbon, Portugal. You try to go there and find that yourself right now, you ain't going to find it. All right, a little bit more about this. So what's interesting is when you get further into this, you will see some other things. Okay, so they kind of somewhat added some stuff since then. Like right now, you can go to quant.network/people/Gonçalo Lima, but it's the edits. There's certain things that they just decided to like inject and take away and so on. So technically speaking, you can kind of find it over on Quant Network. All right, here's where it gets a little bit interesting, okay? Because when you see it, remember how we talked about BNP Paribas? All right. The headquarters of BNP Paribas is in Paris. Remember how we talked about Christine Lagarde and the whole thing of the European Central Bank? I get it. Well, here's something I thought was eye-opening. If you go more into the Wikipedia entry of BNP Paribas, you see, for example, this. One of the major shareholders is, in fact, BlackRock with 6.9% of that. Okay. European institutional investors represent 37.7%, and non-European are 32.5%. But again, BlackRock. Interesting. All right, a little bit more about this. If you go over to quant.network/post.sitemap.xml, again, my different way of going through this, you will see here this, and that the sitemap contains 238 URLs. And in those URLs, a lot of things are kind of missing. Why is that? So for one, you see all this stuff about Andrew Carrier. You see the whole thing about Quant Network, Guy Dietrich. You even see things about like the Rockefellers that we covered. But so many different things here, right? And you could scroll for days. Perspectives of digital currencies. And just, again, you kind of get an idea. And it really just goes further down. Well, one of the things that Quant Papa found out was this: intelligent corporate actions. Corporate actions such as dividend payouts, bond issuance payments. Remember how Channy and I talked about the other day about bonds? So it says, or profit sharing require precise calculation. The whole thing of timely, well, what is referred to as disbursement, regulatory compliance, as Gilbert Vernon pointed out, legacy systems and manual processes can often result in delays, labor-intensive processes, miscalculations, right? Well, here's where some of the findings are interesting. Remember how Quant PayScript just recently came out? Look at the bottom left of the pamphlet, though. Bottom left says March 2025, and it says Quant PayScript, the language of money. So interesting to see the timeline of this. But what's also more interesting is EBA Day, because when we get into this, it shares information here. And again, some of this stuff might go way over your head. You might have to rewind this. But it talks about how fintechs are now a critical pillar of modern banking. From a cautious start, how will the relationship between banks, fintechs evolve in 2025 beyond? And what partnership challenges need to be overcoming the whole achievement of a strategic partnership, delivering successful outcomes for all stakeholders? Well, in my opinion, back to this guy who is supposed to be the head of partnerships, and back to the whole idea of his BNP Paribas plug, and back to the whole thing that he is part of being part of capital markets ecosystem lead over at R3. So this is a major deal moving forward. And again, let's jump back to the visual, because when we get into it, it's the whole thing of the outcomes, accessing new customer demographics or overhauling legacy systems. What unexpected benefits accrue from strategic partnerships? So there's a speaker here. His name is Alistair Brown from EPAM. Now, you may be wondering about that. I'm ahead of you. He's the Vice President of Open Banking and Payments. Alistair has held senior roles at American Express, Visa, MasterCard Advisors, and First Data. If anything, this guy might have been a guy in the background who helped get this whole thing done with the RLN and RSN, but I would rather give that more to, obviously, Citi. Whatever the case be, he also was a partner level with the positions over Capgemini, KPMG, and also he founded leads of the Global Open Banking Payments Group. He addressed key themes in financial services, digital money. We know about Quant with programmable money, alternative payment methods, data monetization. Channing and I just talked about that the other day, of Hedera and AI agents for that monetization. By all means, watch that video. You'd be glad you did. And look at this, financial cybersecurity. I'm thinking him and Gilbert worked together years ago. Maybe we'll never know that, but that makes sense. He also established EPAM's internal academy, I should say, of open banking and payments, cross-training of over 1,000 EPAMers. That's abbreviation. His recent work is with the National Bank of Georgia, developed 5 use cases for central bank digital currencies using blockchain tech. And Alistair is a judge for the Payments Association Awards and sits on the board of Armenia's National Switch, ARCA. That's amazing. We always talk about flip of the switch. I don't know. It's kind of funny. All right, a little bit more about this, okay? So back in August of 2021, EPAM expanded its presence in Latin America through the acquisition of Colombia-based S4N. That's a software development service firm specializing in the design and development of modern software products and enterprise platforms. Now listen to this. Okay, if you get further down into this, it talks about specifically the whole thing of the acquirement of Israel-based cybersecurity services provider White Hat, and that happened back in 2021. Okay, Gilbert Verding came out with the announcement of U.S. and U.K. collaboration, right? Now, does this not match up? 2022, EPAM announced several strategic acquisitions and investments, including a majority stake in U.S. software firm Contino and a minority stake in UK AI-driven data analytics firm Noodle.io. Does that also not pound home a little bit more of what we shared with you guys the other day? Again, watch that video because otherwise this a little bit goes past your head. Now, is there any reference from the community, from somebody like Tokenizer, about the whole thing of Israel and QNT? The answer is yes. Bank of Israel picked 14 fintechs for the Digital Shekel Challenge, and the Ball launched their CBDC sandbox earlier, inspired from Project Rosalind. Their Digital Shekel itself was inspired by Project Sela. Chaney and I have been covering quite a bit of that lately, but it's all possible through QNT. But wait, quant isn't anywhere on the list. Are you sure about that? All right, so here's the citation that he has, and I'll kick it over to Channing here in a bit. And again, it's a little blurry because it's kind of taken through, I think, somebody's cell phone and so on. So back in May 28th, 2024, this is where this is referenced. Highlight says Bank of Israel announced Digital Shekel Challenge, an experiment inspired by Project Rosalind. Middle part says how the API functionality, let me try to blow it up a little bit more. Okay, it's a little blurry, but follow me. How the API functionality, programming interfaces would be used to implement the solution and prioritizing broad diversity among contestants in the project. The use cases that were selected deal with a variety of fields. Connectivity between the Digital Shekel and other systems and cache. Bottom part talks about the challenges. Sandbox will begin operating at the beginning of August, at least that was last year. The products of the challenge will be presented at the concluding conference at the Bank of Israel, which will hold at the end of October, and that already happened. So there's that. I'll kick it back to Channing because the last part will show you some things about what I would like to refer to as this offline CBDC and the whole thing of why Augustine Carstens was pointing out the whole thing of the internet. It is, in my opinion, again, it's just a theory, that now you will finally have an example of these offline functionalities, whether it's offline over wallet, offline CBDCs, offline, you name it. I'm going to show that example here in a bit. I know I did a lot of talking. I do apologize. But I do want to get some of your feedback based off of some of this because there's so much there. Are they hiding stuff? I think the answer is yes. And I think the other answer is they have to because of NDAs. Your thoughts, Mr. Chanahiro?
Well, just seeing that robust resume of the guy who was over the partnerships only solidifies even more Quant's resilienceness and only seeking out the best talent, because we are truly dealing with a Fortune possibly 100, but I'll say 500 future company. Quant Network, and that's why I like the Rockefellers, the guy who's on the board from formerly was on the Rockefellers, and then we had who was it, Guy Dietrich, who they brought in from like WorldPay and all these other. They are literally putting together a stellar rock star team that no one will be able to just shake off. Quant Network and what they are facilitating, even as far as the build out of the team that is governing all of their processes, is second to none. That man's resume is so robust and he's held so many positions. And then you mentioned earlier, you saw MasterCard was on there, and you know Gilbert worked for VocaLink, which is a subsidiary of MasterCard. So that could be their tie as well. But we also know R3 with the RLN. So that could have been their tie to him as well, as far as him and Gilbert working alongside each other in the past. what these Web3 companies are doing, they are literally legitimizing the space. They are telling the world that we are a force to be reckoned with. We are your next Google. We are your next Amazon. We are your next Facebook. We are your next Microsoft. We are your next NVIDIA. We are your next Intel, because they are running through our networks. Follow what is truly being laid out by these companies. They are not playing checkers. It's like what that thing said, strategic partnerships. That means that we're not just throwing a rock in the air and seeing who it hits and then bringing them on board. No, we are strategically and methodically combing through the best of the best, coupling ourselves with the best of the best, because we are building out global infrastructures for economies to be ran on. What's happening right now is second to none, brother. And I'm kicking back over to you because this video is running a little long and I don't want to take too long. So go ahead, brother. I kick it back over to you.
Oh, no worries. You're good. I like the perspective that you share because you do an excellent job, obviously, with some of the summaries and giving your own perspective. So you're good. Yeah. I want to show you guys the icing on the cake. So, again, shout out to Quant Papa for this one, too. And here is what matters, in my opinion. It's the third person that's listed in that photo from EBAdays. Let's point her out real quick, and then we're going to try to cut this off right before half an hour. So, Teresa Connors, Managing Director, Payments Matters, Board and Share Advisor with strong customer focus, Award Judge for the Banker European Banking Association, Merchant Payment Ecosystem and Payments Association, highly regarded industry spokesperson. Okay, Ambassador for the Payments Association, EMEA, like it says at the bottom, Advisory Board Member, Women in Payments. Now, here's where it gets interesting. If you go to paymentsmatter.com, you see this whole thing of these devices for card terminals, middle part, pay by link, not chain link, okay, and right part, pay by sticker. Now, the top middle area, actually, you can barely see it, is the MasterCard logo. And then you also see on the top left of that, next to it, Visa. So again, back to that gentleman, his Visa MasterCard plug. And again, to me, it all makes sense because we know a quant's role when it comes to digital IDs. We talked about you would see this be used at terminals. To me, this is literally, it's just saying, how do you say quant without saying quant? How do you say Finternet without saying Finternet? This is literally it. All of it's here. This makes sense to me. I understand now why Quant Papa highlighted, because at the end of the day, free integrated online shop. The online shop has API integration, to say the least. You won't get an official response from it all, but I could put two and two together in that regard. I think this is a major find, obviously, from Quant Papa, one of the best researchers there are in the community. And there is where it's at. The whole plug of bank accounts, cash advance, open banking, healthcare, this all makes sense. I think, personally, the person that got this done behind the scenes, if I'm just going to go out and say it, Channing, you already know, man. Laura Verdian. It has to be. I think that's the plug. I think that's Connect. But we'll see how this pans out, and we'll go back later and try to verify it like we normally do. But kind of interesting. We've seen a lot of things that came into fruition based off of the research. So I'll close it out with you, Mr. Channing Harrell.
Well, it's like you just mentioned about point of sale terminals, and know that the region that this was just kind of sort of talking about somewhat was that Latin American region. And we also know quant and LackChain. If you go back and watch that LackChain commercial, one of the first things they talk about is the point of sale terminals and how that infrastructure upgrade is happening in these regions, banking the unbanked. You guys, all of the ducks are lining up. All of the breadcrumbs are being left. All of the gems are shining in the sun. It is upon us to now focus, pay attention, and stack the bags that we choose to stack as far as these Web3 distributed ledger technology companies. And for me, I'm sorry, I want to say it, Quant is king. There is no one out there doing the things on the level that Quant Network is doing. The only person or only project I would say is anywhere close is Ripple. And we've now tied them directly on what, 4 different continents at this point in time. So you guys know what you have and know what you hold. Please, please, please tap in. Dive into the research. Don't be afraid of deep dives. It's okay. It's a little bit of time, but the value is immense. I thank you, brother, for tapping in. Go ahead. I kick it back over to you for the closing.
Yeah, no problem. We went a little bit over, and that's okay. But guys, we do appreciate you guys tuning in for all this. There's a lot that we got into on this particular deep dive, but we do appreciate, again, your time. Here's your code word. If you listen to the entire outline and simply type into the comments this key term or word, and that is 1738, and we'll know that you listened to the entire outline. On behalf of myself and Channing, we'll see you on the next one.